There are genome sequences in this DNA that have never been seen in any human body on Earth.
Have you ever wondered who China's first emperor really was? Not just as a legend or ruler, but in terms of his very DNA? For centuries, Qin Shi Huang has been painted as the iron-fisted unifier of China, the man who brought walls, warriors, and entire kingdoms under one banner. But what if his ancestry wasn't what history books told us? What if the bloodline of the first emperor?
Farmers made an astounding discovery: an entire garrison of terracotta warriors meant to protect one of China's most important leaders, Emperor Qin Shi Huang.
Carried secrets that link him to unexpected places, and possibly even unexpected people. Let's dive into the story, because once you hear what modern science and the cutting edge of artificial intelligence might reveal, you'll never look at Qin Shi Huang the same way again. The legend of Qin Shi Huang. Qin Shi Huang's remarkable story begins in a world that had been torn apart by decades of relentless chaos and warfare. Born in 259 BCE during the tumultuous Warring States period, he entered a China that was completely divided into numerous rival kingdoms that constantly clashed and battled fiercely for territorial dominance and political supremacy. From the very moment of his birth into this fractured and violent world, his destiny seemed nothing short of extraordinary and unprecedented. By the remarkably young age of 13, he had already ascended to the throne of the powerful state of Qin, inheriting both tremendous responsibility and immense opportunity. Within just a few decades of determined conquest and strategic military campaigns, he achieved something that no ruler before him in Chinese history had ever managed to accomplish: successfully uniting all the fractured and warring lands of China under one single, centralized empire with unified laws and governance. Yet the emperor's ambitions went far beyond politics. Qin Shi Huang sought control over every aspect of life, standardizing currency, weights, measures, and even the written script, so that his empire could function as a single entity. His ability to reshape society and his image made him both admired and feared. But behind the iron facade was a man obsessed with his own mortality. Legends say he dispatched fleets of ships in search of mystical islands, where sages promised him elixirs of eternal life. Ironically, the very potions he consumed, laden with mercury, may have poisoned him, cutting his quest short. His death did not end his legend. Instead, it magnified it. Beneath the earth of Xi'an, his massive mausoleum and the terracotta army stood as silent guardians of his eternal rest, preserving the image of a ruler who believed he could defy time itself. Stories of his tyrannical decrees, his brutal punishments, and his dreams of immortality fused into a mythic narrative. Qin Shi Huang was not simply remembered as the first emperor of China. He became a symbol of ultimate power, ambition, and mystery. And it is this legend that makes modern questions about his true ancestry so electrifying. What if the man we thought we knew carried secrets in his blood that no chronicler of his age could ever imagine? The Tomb of Secrets. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang is one of the greatest archaeological enigmas on Earth. Located in modern-day Xi'an, this sprawling underground complex has captured the imagination of historians and scientists alike. According to ancient records, it was designed to be a miniature version of the empire he once ruled, with rivers of liquid mercury flowing through its chambers to represent the great waterways of China. The mausoleum was meant to serve as the emperor's eternal palace, guarded by the now iconic terracotta army, thousands of clay soldiers meticulously crafted to protect him in the afterlife. What lies beyond the excavated pits, however, remains untouched, hidden beneath centuries of soil and mystery. Chinese authorities have long prohibited full excavation of the central tomb, citing concerns over damaging what could be priceless cultural relics. Advanced surveys using ground-penetrating radar and soil analysis have already hinted at vast underground structures and unusually high levels of mercury, giving credence to ancient descriptions. Yet the tomb has never been opened, leaving the world to speculate about what treasures or truths are buried with the emperor. Some believe the chambers may contain texts or artifacts that rewrite everything we know about the Qin dynasty, while others suspect the tomb holds knowledge that was deliberately sealed away, never meant for mortal eyes. This sense of secrecy has fueled countless theories about what might be hidden beneath the mound. Could there be unrecorded dynastic connections, lost genealogies, or even DNA samples preserved in ways we can't yet imagine? The fact that the tomb remains sealed adds to its allure, turning it into a symbol of unanswered questions. While we may not yet step inside, the legend of the tomb continues to grow, inspiring both awe and curiosity. For researchers studying Qin Shi Huang's ancestry, the unopened burial site represents both a frustrating limitation and an irresistible invitation. After all, if his true story is written anywhere, it might very well be locked away within those silent underground walls. Ancient DNA and the worker's story. The terracotta army, discovered in 1974, is not just a marvel of craftsmanship, it is also a silent witness to the labor and lives of thousands of workers who built Qin Shi Huang's grand tomb. Archaeological studies suggest that tens of thousands of conscripted laborers, artisans, and craftsmen worked for decades on the emperor's mausoleum. Many of them likely never left the site alive, as legends tell of workers being sealed inside to keep the tomb's secrets from leaking into the world. For centuries, their identities were lost to history, their bones scattered and mingled with the soil of Xi'an. But with the advent of modern genetics, these forgotten individuals have begun to tell their stories once more. Ancient DNA analysis has opened a window into the past lives of those who built the terracotta army. In recent years, researchers studying remains unearthed near the mausoleum found something extraordinary: genetic traces that did not all match local populations of northern China. Some of the workers appeared to have origins from distant regions, even as far as Central and Western Asia. This discovery suggests that the Empire of Qin, while portrayed as rigidly insular, was already touched by early forms of globalization. Trade routes, migrations, and even forced relocations may have brought people of diverse backgrounds into the emperor's workforce, weaving foreign threads into the tapestry of China's first empire. The implications are staggering. If the workers themselves carried DNA from outside the traditional Qin heartland, it raises the question of just how far-reaching the empire's influence really was. Were these laborers prisoners of war, skilled artisans brought in from the edges of the Silk Road, or evidence of a deeper multicultural presence within ancient China? Each genetic clue adds texture to the story of the mausoleum, painting a picture not only of an ambitious ruler, but also of an empire that was far more connected to the wider world than previously believed. In a way, the workers' DNA may hold the key to understanding not just the origins of Qin Shi Huang's empire, but possibly even his own mysterious ancestry. The question of foreign influence. China's first emperor is often portrayed as the ultimate symbol of Chinese identity, a ruler who unified a fractured land into a single nation. Yet the question of foreign influence has always lingered in the background of his story. Ancient chronicles hint at contact between the Qin dynasty and distant lands, though the details are scarce and often shrouded in myth. Some legends suggest that envoys from the West brought exotic goods, knowledge, and even ideas that may have shaped parts of Qin Shi Huang's vision for empire. If the workforce behind his mausoleum already contained traces of genetic diversity, could it be possible that the emperor himself was touched by these same outside influences? The notion is controversial, because it challenges the idea of Qin Shi Huang as purely a product of Chinese civilization. Genetic studies of surrounding populations have shown surprising levels of interconnection across Eurasia, even in ancient times. The early Silk Road, though not yet fully formed, already acted as a bridge for cultural and biological exchange. Horses, weaponry, metallurgy, and even agricultural practices traveled long distances, often carried by migrating peoples. Against this backdrop, the possibility of foreign genetic influences entering into noble or royal bloodlines no longer seems impossible. Qin Shi Huang's ancestry, if tested today, might reveal a story far more complex than a single lineage rooted in northern China. But this raises an even more delicate question. How much of the emperor's identity was shaped by these hidden connections? In a world where rulers derived much of their legitimacy from ancestral purity and divine mandate, the discovery of foreign blood could have been scandalous. And yet, from a modern perspective, it would not diminish his greatness but rather highlight how interconnected the ancient world really was. Whether or not foreign ancestry played a direct role in shaping Qin Shi Huang's rise, the debate itself underscores a broader truth, that the first emperor's story is not just China's story, but part of a shared human history stretching across continents. Enter quantum AI. For decades, archaeologists and historians could only speculate about the mysteries locked away in the past. But now, a new player has entered the stage: quantum AI. Unlike traditional computing, which processes information in binary steps, quantum computing harnesses the strange and powerful principles of quantum mechanics, allowing it to process enormous amounts of data at once. When combined with artificial intelligence, this technology becomes a game changer, capable of spotting hidden connections in data that would take humans or classical computers decades to find. For the study of Qin Shi Huang, it means that fragments of genetic material, scattered historical texts, and even soil samples can now be analyzed at unprecedented speed and accuracy. Researchers using quantum AI can feed the system vast datasets, partial DNA sequences recovered from archaeological sites, population genetics across Asia and beyond, and historical climate and migration patterns. The AI doesn't just crunch the numbers, it identifies relationships and probabilities that might otherwise remain invisible. For instance, a fragment of ancient DNA that seems incomplete to human eyes can be cross-referenced with genetic databases across the globe in a matter of seconds, reconstructing missing pieces and offering clues about ancestry. In Qin Shi Huang's case, this means the possibility of piecing together his genetic puzzle without even opening his tomb, by comparing related remains from his era with modern and ancient populations. What makes this development especially exciting is that it goes beyond hard data. Quantum AI doesn't just give a single answer. It provides a spectrum of possibilities, highlighting surprising overlaps between populations that were never thought to be connected. Suddenly, theories of foreign influence, ancient migration, and hidden ancestry are no longer just whispers of legend. They're patterns that can be tested, visualized, and debated. The entrance of quantum AI into this field has not only revived the mystery of Qin Shi Huang's ancestry, but has also pushed it to the center of global conversation. In many ways, it feels as though the emperor's quest for immortality has been reborn in the digital age, as modern technology works tirelessly to ensure his legacy lives on. What we thought we knew. For centuries, the accepted story of Qin Shi Huang's ancestry seemed clear. Historical records described him as the son of King Zhuangxiang of Qin and Lady Zhao, a consort of noble birth. His lineage was tied firmly to the ruling class of the Qin state, which had risen from a relatively remote Western kingdom to dominate the warring states. Traditional narratives positioned him as a pure descendant of the Chinese aristocracy, a man whose bloodline carried legitimacy through generations of noble rule. To many historians, this ancestry helped explain his confidence, his authority, and his determination to reshape China according to his vision. This official version of his family tree was reinforced by ancient texts such as Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian. According to these chronicles, the emperor's ancestry linked him directly to the noble houses that had controlled Qin for centuries, tracing back to ancestors who had once served the Zhou kings. These texts painted a picture of continuity and destiny, a boy born into the right family at the right time with the right claim to power. It was a story that fit neatly into the narrative of unification, where one chosen ruler rose above all others to establish a new empire. Yet, like so much in history, the story may not be as straightforward as it appears. Ancient texts were often written with political motives, aiming to legitimize rulers and strengthen dynasties. Rumors circulated even in Qin Shi Huang's own time that questioned his parentage, suggesting that his mother may have had relationships outside the royal line. While these whispers were dismissed by loyalists as slander, modern research has shown that oral traditions and hidden records sometimes preserve kernels of truth. The discovery of diverse DNA among workers and subjects of his empire now forces us to re-examine the old story. Was Qin Shi Huang truly the son of a single noble lineage, or was his ancestry more complex than official records dared to admit? The limits of science and the temptation of speculation. As powerful as quantum AI and modern genetics are, there are limits to what science can reveal, especially when it comes to a figure as ancient and protected as Qin Shi Huang. His central tomb has never been excavated, and Chinese authorities remain firm in their stance that disturbing it could cause irreparable damage to priceless artifacts. This means that researchers are forced to rely on indirect evidence, studying the DNA of workers, neighboring populations, and environmental samples from the burial site. While these provide tantalizing clues, they cannot yet offer a direct genetic profile of the emperor himself. The absence of that central piece keeps the puzzle incomplete and leaves room for uncertainty. It is within that uncertainty that speculation thrives. Scholars, enthusiasts, and even conspiracy theorists all find fertile ground in the gaps of knowledge. Some suggest that Qin Shi Huang's ancestry may reveal foreign bloodlines, perhaps from Central Asia, while others imagine that the emperor's quest for immortality might have been inspired by ideas brought in from distant cultures. Without definitive proof, these ideas live in a twilight zone between history and imagination. While mainstream historians remain cautious, it is impossible to deny the allure of asking, "What if?" when faced with the silence of the sealed tomb and the mysteries hidden beneath. The temptation of speculation is not necessarily a weakness, it is also what keeps public interest alive. After all, history is not just a list of established facts, it is also a conversation about possibilities. For many, the idea that Qin Shi Huang might have had unexpected ancestry does not diminish his legacy, but instead makes it richer and more human. It transforms him from a mythic figure carved in stone into a man whose life was shaped by the same migrations, cultural exchanges, and hidden complexities that define the human story. In this sense, the limits of science and the abundance of speculation combine to keep the emperor's mystery alive, ensuring that his story continues to fascinate us thousands of years later. Why it matters. At first glance, the ancestry of an emperor who lived more than 2,000 years ago might seem like little more than a historical curiosity. But the question of Qin Shi Huang's DNA is about much more than solving an ancient riddle. It touches on the very foundations of how nations understand their past and, by extension, themselves. For China, Qin Shi Huang is not just another ruler, he is the symbol of unity, the man who stitched together a fractured land, and laid the groundwork for a civilization that endures today. If his ancestry turned out to be more complex, possibly involving foreign connections, it could reshape how people view the origins of one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. Beyond national identity, the pursuit of this knowledge also speaks to a broader human truth: the story of migration and connection across continents. If DNA studies show that ancient China was more genetically diverse than once thought, it reinforces the idea that no civilization exists in isolation. Borders, even in ancient times, were porous. Ideas, goods, and people traveled, blending cultures and shaping history in ways often overlooked by official records. By uncovering these hidden threads, we gain a richer understanding of how globalized our world has always been, even long before the word globalization was ever spoken. Finally, the importance of this mystery lies in what it reveals about us today. Our fascination with Qin Shi Huang's ancestry is not just about him. It's about our own search for roots and meaning. In an age where millions of people use DNA kits to trace their family trees, the idea that even history's most powerful figures might share in the same tangled, surprising ancestry resonates deeply. It reminds us that identity is never as simple as a single line of descent. Instead, it is a web of connections, shaped by chance encounters, migrations, and unions across borders. That, perhaps, is the most enduring legacy of Qin Shi Huang's story, not just the empire he built, but the reminder that we are all products of a shared and complicated human journey. What the future holds. The mysteries surrounding Qin Shi Huang are unlikely to remain unanswered forever. As technology advances, the possibilities for extracting and analyzing ancient DNA continue to grow. Methods that seemed impossible just a decade ago, like reconstructing genomes from soil traces or piecing together ancestry from tiny fragments, are already being used on other archaeological sites around the world. One day, perhaps, scientists will be able to unlock genetic information from the emperor's tomb without ever disturbing a single artifact. The combination of quantum computing, AI, and next-generation sequencing could finally give us the closest thing to a biological fingerprint of China's first emperor. Of course, the future also depends on cultural and political choices. The Chinese government has been cautious about disturbing the mausoleum, valuing preservation over discovery. That stance may not change anytime soon, but global curiosity continues to grow. If new technologies make it possible to study the tomb in non-invasive ways, the debate over whether to explore further may resurface. Each generation brings new priorities, and eventually, the balance between preservation and discovery might tip toward revealing the tomb's long-guarded secrets. When that moment arrives, the revelations could rewrite not just textbooks, but the way people all over the world see the origins of one of history's greatest civilizations. For now, the story of Qin Shi Huang's ancestry is still unfolding, like a book with most of its pages yet to be read. Every new breakthrough in genetics or AI adds another line, another clue to a story that has been waiting for over 2,000 years to be told in full. The future promises answers, but it also promises more questions. And perhaps that is the beauty of it. Each discovery about the past leads us deeper into the mystery of who we are as humans. The emperor may have sought immortality through elixirs, but in truth, his immortality lies here, in our endless fascination with his life, his legacy, and the secret still buried beneath the earth. The great mystery remains. For now, Qin Shi Huang rests in his tomb, guarded by his clay army and wrapped in legends. His DNA remains locked away with him, untouched, unread, and untold. The workers around him whisper part of the story, their bones carrying clues of a diverse empire, a place where people of different ancestries came together under one ruler. But the emperor himself? His ancestry is still a mystery. And maybe that is fitting. For a man who once sought to live forever, to drink the elixirs of immortality, and to build monuments that would outlast time, perhaps his greatest secret is still hidden in his blood. Someday, perhaps with the help of quantum AI and future science, we may finally learn the truth. Until then, the legend continues to grow. So here's what we know. Qin Shi Huang's own DNA remains a mystery, locked away in his unexcavated tomb. But the workers who built his mausoleum tell a story of diversity and migration, challenging the old view of a purely local empire. Add to that the hints of possible foreign artistic influence and the potential of future technologies like quantum AI, and we are left with a tantalizing possibility that the first emperor's ancestry is not what we thought. What do you think? Should we open the emperor's tomb to solve this mystery once and for all, or should some secrets remain untouched? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love uncovering the mysteries of history with me.